Now, a tune-up is one of the most important things that you should do to your vehicle. This is a typical story. You buy a used vehicle, it's got about 100,000 miles, you got a good deal on it, and you decide, you know what? The first thing you decide to do is go to the store, get yourself one of those fluffy steering wheel covers, plenty of air fresheners, some new floor mats, sweet, some tire shine, and yeah, you just get in your vehicle and go. But then you neglect the fact that the car has 100,000 miles on it, and it's probably in need of a little TLC. Now, this is my 2015 Ram 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi. I bought it with 100,000 miles, and yeah, it needs some TLC. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna change the oil, put the good stuff in there, the Pennzoil Ultra Platinum 5W20, put in a good oil filter. This is the Wix, it's the 57060. A side note on that, if you're having a lot of issues with the rattle on startup, check what type of filter that you're using with these Hemis. Issue is that a lot of the anti-drain back valves are cheap, they don't work, or they're non-existent, or they break and they don't get the job done. I know the Mopar ones, I think they use like a silicone synthetic one, don't quote me 100% on that one, but it's not as strong as the one on the Wix. So make sure you're using a good oil filter for your Hemi or any vehicle, and that will kind of help you with a little rattle on startup and premature wear and tear. Now, one thing I like to do is I like to put a brand new drain plug in my vehicles, especially when I'm changing the oil. And this is the Mopar one. This is the part number. I'll post it somewhere because, well, that's kind of hard to read. And the reason why is that most people do not change the gaskets for the oil drain plug. They seep, they leak, or they strip out. So that's something I like to do. I just like to change that. I'm going to be putting in this MicroGuard air filter. If you get into one of those Canon air filters, I don't recommend them. Just get a regular air filter, you'll be fine. I would have gone to Wix, but they didn't have any in stock, and this should work. Now, like I've talked about in another video, one of the most neglected things that people do not change is their PCV valve. They're pretty cheap, unless you have a Hemi, in which if you go with the OEM one, which I did, they cost about like 50 bucks or $30 to $50. They're expensive, but I've seen a lot of misdiagnosis, performance issues. Even people say, hey, my engine is totaled just because this valve is getting stuck. Change it. It's good peace of mind. Will resolve a lot of issues. And if you have the basics taken care of in your vehicle, then if you do run into some serious issues, at least you know you have a good foundation. Now, one final thing to note is it's good to change the spark plugs. Well, in this video, we will not be changing the spark plugs because, yes, number one, they probably are due as they have 100,000 miles. This engine looks like it's been untampered with. But if you know these engines, it's a task to change them and quite expensive. But one thing that I find that people don't tend to mess with, and it's not a typical tune-up item, is the throttle body. Now, the throttle body tends to get a lot of carbon oil buildup in there, just depending on how your engine is running, and that could cause some issues with the way it runs. So I'm actually going to take out the throttle body, put a new gasket, clean it out pretty good, and make sure this engine is running real nice. Another one of the vehicle, I'm glad I did buy it, because if you look, our drain plug is chewed up. It's supposed to be a 13, and honestly, it looks like, well, whatever we desire it to be. So let's get that off. All right, let's let that drain for a while. So all that stuff is draining. Let's go ahead and start working on the top over here. So unplug this. Maybe. There we go. This should be easier. Now this air filter pretty much looks brand new, but I'm still going to change it because, well, I don't know how long it's been on there. In our area, we don't get a lot of dust and dirt. Well, not terrible, but couldn't hurt to change it. So now I think first thing I want to do is take care of this PCV valve. These are a little tight, so sometimes you need a plier just to yeah, pop it out. Pretty easy. Now this one still rattles, and what you kind of check for is for it not rattling and sticking, but this one's still pretty good. But preventive maintenance. Now let's pop this one in. Kind of the same thing. Twist. And it's a lot easier to do this with pliers. You don't have to, but you know, why not? All right, all done. Now for our throttle body, we gotta disconnect these Chrysler safety clips. Pop this off, and that should be it. So you got 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 8mm. Let's get these out. Now they shouldn't be tight as they thread into plastic or whatever you call the intakes made of. And this should slide right out. Now this one's not too bad. Just a little ridge right over here that we can take off. Moves smoothly. It's not catching on anything, so I've seen worse. I've seen ones where they've actually kept this open and they had like chunks in it. But from my experience, based about this, tells me the health condition of the engine is probably decent. So let's get this cleaned out. I like to use a toothbrush. All right, a lot better, a lot cleaner, no ridges of carbon, so we're good to go. We can put this back on the truck. So now what I want to do is take off this gasket. It's still pretty good. It's a little plushy and pliable, but as cheap as they are, why not change it? Falpro, this is the part number 61586, in case anybody was wondering. Let's just wipe this real quick. Just make sure it's sitting all the way down in its groove. In fact, this is actually a little puffier than the other one, so probably a good thing we're changing it. So now let's pop this in. Pop it in. Safety clip. Good to go. Now don't go crazy tightening these bolts because this is plastic, just snug, and that's about it. Now with your air filter, this is the perfect time to clean out this box. It gets a lot of debris, crap, sand, and all that stuff. I've already done that previously, so it's nice and clean. But if you got a lot of stuff in here, blow it out, hose it out, clean it out real good. That way it's not getting back in the filter and defeating the purpose of changing this thing. So now we got our new plug. It's white. so we got our oil filter right over here, which is kind of hard to get this camera in. Let's unscrew it. Oh, that's loose. That's very loose. All right, so old filter out. It's kind of hard to record. Let's get this new one in. Make sure you put a little lubrication on the seal for the oil filter. I'll get this started. We'll snug it by hand, and then we'll add some oil. You know what they say, the bigger the funnel, the more you have to clean it before you put it on, because those things get dirty. So let's add some good stuff. Should be about 7 quarts. We'll check it. So at this point, I've ran it. I've checked my oil, topped it off. Let's just put a little smidge in it. Good to go. So easy tune-up, very simple. Bunch of stuff that typically gets neglected, but should hopefully keep my vehicle running smooth, more efficient, and last for a while. So thanks for watching, and we'll see what else I can work on this truck.